Hey everyone, this is Greg Washington and welcome to the next episode of Guards Down. I have with me today a very special guest, Tom Satterly. How are you doing, Tom?
Hey, good, Greg, and I really want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Man, look, hey, I'm glad that you're on. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you on the show, and just to be able to network and connect with different people out there. So, let's get started. Tell us about yourself.
Oh man, this is the part I hate. I'm not very good at this. So, yeah, I grew up in Indiana, and and I live in Missouri now, so it's a lot similar. I thought I got away from it, and I kind of moved back to it by marriage. But I grew up in Indiana and joined the Army in 1986 and spent 25 years, which what started with, I'll give it 4 years and get some college money, and then a friend of mine had talked me into it because he joined the Army, and I was building houses in Indiana, and I was pretty happy. I would have never gone anywhere. I would have never done anything. Probably would have not left Indiana much with the direction I was headed. And so my friend came back from basic training. He's like, you got to check it out. I'm going to Germany for 2 years. This is pretty cool. The haircut's not bad. And the training was great. He was excited. So we're on our way to a John Cougar concert in Indianapolis. And in the course of an hour, he talked me into joining the Army. And I thought, well, I'll get some college money and I'll go back to college and kind of repay the money my parents had blown on me, if you will, that I blew in college. But, about 3 years into it, I had gone to a couple of different schools. I had gone to French Commando School. I got to German Ranger School after winning a competition of about 1,000 soldiers, and went to platoon confidence training, which was run by some Green Berets in Bad Tolz, Germany. I got a different taste. I didn't like the regular Army. I was a mechanized engineer. I was driving APCs in Germany for 3 years. And I mean, the job is great, but what I was doing day to day, which is preparing for war with no money, was, maintaining my armored personnel carrier at the motor pool. There's oil in there. Okay. Every Monday you're doing that. Every Wednesday you're doing this, change the track pads. I'm like, what am I doing? I want to do something more.
Yeah.
And I got a little taste through those schools. And so a friend of mine had a picture in his wallet of his father wearing a Green Beret, holding him as a baby, wearing his dad's Green Beret. And he told me that story, and I thought, man, that's a cool story. And Green Berets sound cool. So I tried to get, the Green Beret route, but I didn't have a certain school I needed. So I had to re-enlist for airborne school just to get to Fort Bragg, just so I could get to the recruiters at some point in my life and become a Green Beret. So I'll finish that part real quick. I went to the selection, made it, went to the qualification course to be an engineer, special operations engineer sergeant. And while I was in language school, some guys had approached me and said, hey, we saw you during the qualification course. We think you have what it takes to be in Delta. And I go, okay, what's that? Is it cooler than this? I'll do that. And if it is, I don't know anything. And I think I'd been in the Army a total of 4 years. And these guys were like, yeah, you should try out for Delta, man. So call this number. And I called it, and they set up, they had all these dates set up for PT tests and psychological evaluations. And I finished language school, and I moved to Fort Campbell for 5th Special Forces Group in Kentucky when they were all deployed to the first Gulf War, and there was nobody there. So all I did was work out and train and wear my rucksack everywhere. And went to selection in the spring of 91 and made it. And everybody in 5th Group came back from, the first Gulf War wasn't very long, and it was over pretty quick. And they were all coming back. And they saw me as a new guy. What's up? Where you at? And I'm like, don't worry about it. I'm on my way out the door back to Fort Bragg. And I spent the last 20 years in Delta, seeing the world, from a kid who would never see a thing and probably never leave Indiana and just be some uneducated hammer swinger, that with no experience in the world. I don't know. I've been to most continents, and pretty much I could say I've been around the world and done a lot of things, mostly the stuff you don't want to do, but a lot of it's fun along the way too.
Got you. Man, so you kind of downplay being a Green Beret and Delta, right? Like you just skipped over it.
Yeah, I'm not good at that. It's I get to the point, I'm not good at talking about that. To me, I was in shape and I had that I'll never quit attitude. I was young. I mean, I was young. I was 150 pounds. You probably could never break me. I was bendable and flexible, and a lot of that was easy to me. It was just kind of, I stumbled into all these things. I stumbled into the Green Berets via a friend, and who, by the way, found out, what are we at? 20 years later, his dad was lying to him. His dad was not even a Green Beret ever. That was a whole nother story, but that was my whole career and my life dream that I stole from someone else was fake. And so not only did I stumble there, I took a fake dream and turned it into a different career altogether that I never expected. And I know there's things I've done that, as I read my book and interviewed friends of mine that I've worked with along the way, there's more that I've forgotten, that I can't even remember, that I've done in places I've gone to. It's kind of sad. It was such a whirlwind that everywhere we went was work, and that whole life leads you into, the PTS, the depression, the anxiety, the bad behavior, the poor behavior that we exhibit along the way. And then after, when you get out, is all based on that and putting your family away, right? Work was number one. I mean, I'm on my last wife, but my fourth wife, due to me never, ever giving anything up for my job. And that's what it takes to be in places like that. And I never sat back and thought about the commitment. I just kept stumbling into it, And then my first wife made it through all those schools, made it into the unit with me, made it all the way up until Somalia, with Black Hawk Down in 1993. And she put up with a lot. And I don't think I was horrible up until then, other than a lifestyle of the drinking and the partying. But after Somalia, I completely changed. I was a different human being. And I had zero empathy, zero compassion for anyone or for anything in life. And she just couldn't take it. So we didn't make it long past that. And so after the first wife, it was just stumbling, another wife. Sure, seems like the easy thing to do is to get married, And then that didn't last, of course. I could never understand why something doesn't last when you don't put any effort into it. But, you finally realize that all those things that you did, just like any CEO of an organization that's powerful, or like professional athletes, that's their dedicated life. I'm sure that they dump a lot of the bad things onto their spouses if they have them, or their friends, or their loved ones. It's just that determination where all you care about is what you're doing, and that affects you. And when all that's gone, like you break a leg, right? That could be an athlete, an elite military individual. I mean, I'm not a CEO. I'm not so much a CEO. It's not an active life, but when you have something that happens to you, or you're too old to do it and you can't do it anymore, and that's all you've ever done, man, it all comes crashing down on you.
Yeah, you hit a couple of really great points, right? And so the first one, to talk about is, one, you had the never quit attitude, which, I mean, like, if you don't have it going into the military, they're going to instill it in you. and I think that is one of the cultures of being in the military. Because, I mean, I look at not only ethnicity as a culture, but I also look at, corporate organizations, and especially, the military as a culture in itself. Because, most of us join when we're at that 17 to 18, year old range, and we have these disciplines and characters instilled in us. And so, and that just don't go away once we're out. Like it's a part of us now. The other part that, you spoke on was about dreams, right? You took somebody else's dream, whether it was real or fake, and you made it your reality.
Yeah.
And so, that in itself is a big thing. So regardless of the fact that it wasn't true, you made it true for you, at least.
Yeah. And, when we go around and we speak a lot, me and my wife, and A lot of times I tell people when it's a leadership conversation versus a PTS conversation, it's a whole different thing for us. And I tell everybody, your parents told you, or somebody told you growing up, you can be anything you want. In some way, they told you can do anything you want. Hopefully, somebody in your life when you were a child growing up has told you this, that you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. This is America, it's the land of dreams, whatever. But they don't tell you the whole sentence, right? If you bust your ass or you work really, really, really hard and forsake almost everything else, you can be anything you want. But they don't tell you about the hard work that goes in with it. And I think that's lost on a lot of people when they try and they fail and they quit. Try, fail, quit, you're done, right? Try, fail, try again, try, fail, try again. You're going to fail your entire life. You're going to fail at everything. You're going to fail at it once, twice, 100 times, 1,000 times. If I quit every time I failed at something, I'd never have gone anywhere in my life. My biggest fear was failing, and yet I failed all the time. I mean, I considered it failing a selection, not passing to me was failing a selection. So I looked at it differently when I was younger. That no fail mission, that's bullshit. There are no fail missions, but you're so highly trained, and the military teaches you SOPs and, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. Have your PACE plan. So your primary will never work. Throw that out right away after 30 seconds. You go to your alternate, and that's always going to fail. You go to contingency. Then you got an emergency plan, right? You better have one after that too, because you're always going to get back up and keep going anyway. Yeah. So to think that there's a no-fail mission is ridiculous. I had a new guy come on and goes, I'm ready for this no-fail mission of saving lives of veterans' lives and stuff. And I said, it's an ever-changing dynamic. It's not a no-fail mission, but we're shifting all the time because we're going to shift around what we need to do to keep going, whether it's money we need or whether it's awareness we need or reaching the people that need help because they don't want to be reached, because they're not admitting it or they're not, reaching out to you. So it's the only thing we'll all do together is fail at something, right? Yeah. And we'll all die too. We'll all die, we'll all fail at something. But there's trillions of other paths along the way that are different for all of us.
No, I definitely agree with that. So, I mean, this is great because it leads into my first question, right? So growing up, did your parents or, someone around you, in your circle, teach you how to deal with grief and trauma?
No. I'm trying to think of my first death. And, my wife and I were talking about this the other day, about my stepkids. And they haven't experienced death, Hopefully, as a child, you don't have to experience a family member's death or a close friend, loved one's death. No one ever taught me how to deal with grief. And I get that from a lot of people. No one taught me how to deal with grief. It was always like, don't look at it. Shield the children from it. I mean, honestly, if you read the book On Killing by Dave Grossman, Colonel Grossman, it's about how we've removed killing from the family, right? We've removed processing food. We've removed any hard or disgusting thing is always hidden behind a curtain. So we're growing up in this pristine world where we're not experienced death and grief and how to handle it. So it comes as a shock when you're, in the military. If you're ever thrust into it, I've lost, I don't know how many friends I've lost. I'd have to do the count in my head. It'd be a while. And I no one in the military taught me how to deal with grief, right? I had to learn how to deal with it through my therapist while building up this foundation that we now run to teach people how to deal with grief. That's the thing that it seems no one touches, right? You go to your chaplain after the fact, maybe, or your priest or whatever. But I don't remember ever being taught how to deal with grief for most of my life.
Mm-hmm. So with that, what tools and techniques did you learn along the way to help you cope, both healthy and unhealthy?
I learned to, and this is recently, right? Recently, within the last several years, dealing with all the death in my life. And a year and some months ago, I lost my father. And January 2nd this year, I lost my mother. Almost just a little over a year after I lost my dad. And I was gone my whole life, right? So, but I was always very close to them. Not as close as my brother and sister who stayed there, lived with them, you know, family gatherings all the time. I'm seeing my parents once a year. And so recently I've had that dumped on me, having to deal with that, you know, lots of friends committing suicide, lots of loss of life in the military, on missions, and that continues on. And I've learned to mourn and honor their, you know, and to help. And then I've learned to move on and live my life, which is what I'm going to have to do anyway, is live my life. And I'm going to have to live it without them. So I'm going to live it the way that I know they would want me to live it if they were alive, right? They wouldn't want me miserable every day. I would not want them miserable. Me and my wife have talked, we want to party when we're dead, right? Let some close family member, you know, burn me, put me in an urn, set me up with a picture and some rock music or whatever music y'all like, because I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not there anymore. My soul, my spirit, my energy has moved on to something else. My body was just a body here on earth. So it's gone. Mourn me, talk about me, share some stories, laugh. But after that, when you think of me in a kind light, a good light, and just go about your life. And I would never want to drag somebody down with my death ever. I find that to be a waste of your life.
Yeah. No, I like that, you know, to celebrate life, you know, even in, you know, times of mourning, give yourself that time to mourn, but understand that we're all not promised, you know, this time on earth. We're just steward of times. And so be able to share these moments with good people while we have them in our life and just celebrate it. So that's spot on, man. Like that hit the core right there. It really did. The question that I have is, do you think that different cultures have differences in how they cope with trauma and grief?
I would bet they do. I'm a firm believer, and I say this a lot to my wife, and I probably mumble it to people when we talk, is that everything you know, you've been taught by someone else. I read it in a book. It was written down by someone else, right? There's not a lot in my life I've experienced and found out on my own. We've been around a long time. So I think that the neighbors next door, whatever culture they are, you know, grew up under who they grew up, and that's what they know. And so the differences are so vast. But I know that people grieve differently. I had somebody asked me yesterday, this guy I bumped into him, and he said, "What do you think about Black culture?" And I go, "Well, I haven't lived in it. I mean, so for me to say would be my limited exposure. Because what do you think of Black people?" And I go, "It depends on what they're doing to me." And he's like, "What?" And I go, "That's what I think of everybody. What are you doing to me at that time? Are you being mean to me? Are you being nice to me? Are we talking?" I mean, that's what I think of people. I think of people what they show me, right? Not what they're wearing or their skin color or anything like that, because that's never gone anywhere, right? That's never gone anywhere to consider that and to think that way. Behavior, right, will show me how to treat people. So I let people show me how to treat them. And my wife says all the time, people will tell you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. Now,
they'll tell you and show you. But I would bet that I would guess cultures grieve differently. The Indian tribes did completely different things with death. Vikings, you know, burning a body in public, and a lot of it was more healing than I think than how we kind of deal with death in our country as a whole, right? Buried, you know, cremated, and then there's a wake or a morning, you know, ceremonies. They're all so similar.
yeah.
Muslims, they have to bury them before dusk and things like that. So, you know, there's always differences in culture by what you were taught by, you know, your grandparents, your great grandparents, and so on and so forth, that we don't even remember what happened 100 years ago when you're in your own family line of what they did. It morphs and changed so much.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Well, what are some signs that you felt both internally and just some flags that you saw with your soldiers when they were dealing with grief and trauma? Like what are some obvious signs that you can point out within yourself and also just the client?
My first sign I tell everybody to look for is the easiest one. It's change. That's the first thing you notice is something different, right? So if it's something overall different on a day-to-day basis, then pay attention to it, right? Pay attention to that. It's for a reason. It might be something else, but at least you're paying attention to a shift and change. So that's the first sign to look for is the difference or a change. The second would be the distance, the 1,000-yard stare, whatever they called it over time. But just you're not there. You're not present in the moment. I've seen guys wandering around, walking around the house after some of our guys get injured and staring out the window for hours, right? I've seen other guys that go in and start cleaning the house. They're picking up. They want to detail the entire house. They just stay busy. But you'll see the distance, and then you'll see those that recluse, and that's also a change. But the ones that just I'm fine. I just want to lay down. I'm tired. So there's that depressive thing. They don't want to deal with people. They don't have the energy. They're tired, so they recluse. And then you have those that just have those anger outbursts. I was the angry guy. So, my ex has always loved it. And my wife now certainly loved it when we met, was the anger outburst. It'd be about 6 seconds, 5 seconds long. I'd get as many words as I could out of it. And then I'd realize, oh man, that was worthless. And then I'd apologize for 2 days for everything I said in that 6 seconds. But so change. And then that distance, guys that aren't there in the present, those that recluse, and then those that lash out and attack people. And I would guess, and I would wager to bet that each of those reactions are based on how they were raised, right? And what happened in their life. You have one guy get injured or killed. You have 16 or 10 or 5 different guys grieving and reacting in different ways. And I would guess it was all based on how they were raised and what they're used to and what they've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's I've seen that in my career as well. I mean, that the 1,000-yard stare, the change in the attitude. I'm the type that I like to clean. So
me too.
that, and I'll have some short bursts of anger and emotions, but I think over time I've learned to curb that, right? If you give yourself that half a second to breathe.
That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I got past that half second.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Tony Robbins talks about that in a different light. It's about making decisions and choosing the easy path. I'd rather sit on the couch and eat snacks versus, I'm going to go on a run. If you think that, go on that run, because your mind within the next 3 to 5 seconds is going to start negotiating with you naturally to do something easier. I want to go on a run, like every night. I'm going to get up tomorrow. I'm going to run and work out. You wake up and, maybe next 30 minutes. Okay, tomorrow, right? So I negotiated. I didn't do it, right? And that's the hardest part, is to start. People going to the gym, starting a diet program, whatever it is, the hardest part is always starting. So that negotiation you're talking about, of that half a second of don't do what you normally do, right? And that's why we teach so much on triggers and awareness, is get to know you and your spouse, especially get to know yourself, because you're the first person that can stop you from doing something.
Right.
So we tell everybody, get to know yourself, and that's that awareness. And know that if you have that half second trigger, don't pull it yet. Don't put your finger on it. Just wait, and your whole path will be a lot better than if you burst right now. You'll say something you can't take back, and you'll be apologizing for weeks. And then it's that shame cycle I talk about. Me and my wife talk about. It's the shame cycle. You do something horrible, and then someone's talking about it, and you say something horrible, and then you feel bad about it, and so therefore you do something horrible, and it is just, you keep going. You got to break that cycle. So we teach the triggers of, like you said, wait. I know myself. I'm going to wait. And when I do wait, it turns out always better than when I fly off the handle, because I know what I'm talking about, right? I'm so smart. I'm gonna teach you what I know, And when I'm trying to be right, my wife's trying to be right, the relationship loses. So, we decided to work for the relationship. So I wait my half second. She wanders off for whatever she needs to do, and then we get back at it and keep working.
I like that. Work for the relationship. Okay. Being a command sergeant major, regular Army, Green Beret, Delta Force, you've been hit on, the famous movie Black Hawk Down. And I'm quite sure, you've been in other missions that probably can't even be, spoke on. Tell us about your experience with trauma and grief.
Nearly destroyed me. Yeah, I tucked it away in that little pit in your tummy where it'll never surface again if you push it down far enough, right? And you just keep pushing all the stress in your life down in your stomach. You keep going to work and you show your good face, and you work hard and you show everybody you know what you're doing. And, you go home and you unleash hell because nobody sees that. And you go to work every day. And I treated my work life better. And it was all due to the grief and the loss of unprocessed trauma. And the moral injury on top of that of taking lives. You told your whole life, thou shalt not kill. And then the Army's like, yeah, go for it, man. Here, we'll show you how to do it really, really well. And then, oh, by the way, you're going to do it so well, you won't even think about it. It's muscle memory. You enter a room, you see it. You see, I saw hands. People talk about, I saw faces. I saw dead faces and wounded faces. But if you had something in your hand that was a threat to me, that's the first thing I saw were your hands. And if there's a threat in it, I'm killing you. And then I look at your face, and then I process. So that was muscle memory, not thought, but the thought comes later. So I kept that, and that, that turned into anger issues and depression, drinking, and just everything negative, anything to try to forget or to feel. And until I learned to process it, and by processing, I mean talking about it, sharing how I felt about it, just telling the story, and then all my research I've done since then with me and my wife and our foundation was reading different stories, reading Tribe, by Sebastian Junger, is how the Indians did it back in the day. Their warriors came back and they had to sit and tell the story, and everybody contributed in the tribe. And then when you were a warrior, there were certain things you did not do in the tribe. So that was your perk, if you will. That was your respect. Warriors want respect. We're warriors. Okay, well, when you're not in the tribe and you're out doing warrior stuff, you no longer have to chop wood or whatever that was. But the day you come back from war, you tell your story, you share it, to select tribal leaders, you get it all out. Because the next day, you'll be chopping wood again. You're contributing the entire time. I think a lot of problems with not processing trauma, grief, veterans are angry or they want this or that, is that they're no longer feel like they're part of that tribe. They're no longer contributing to a greater cause, and they're living in the past. My military days. I'm like, man, what are you doing now though? Well, I was retired. No. What are you doing now? That's it. That gave you experience to do what you're doing now, but it's not what you're doing. You can't redo it. You might be able to rejoin if you're young enough, but do you really want to? And it gave you experience, but what are you doing now? Living in the present helps you process grief and trauma because you're focused on what you're doing. You're contributing to whatever you're doing, so you're part of that. Instead of living in I miss my Army buddy days, I miss my friends, and well, if you live in different parts of the country, you're going to miss them forever, right? Unless you get together once every 6 months or something, but it's never going to be like it was. You're not going to be in the barracks. You're not going to have those nights out, you know, the sitting on the roof in Baghdad, smoking a cigarette, talking about something cool, you know, or being in a firefight, or just training really, really hard with people that makes you close. You know, adversity bonds you, and it'll never be like that. So stop grabbing for it. That's half of people's problems and trauma and stress is you're never going to get that, but they keep trying for it. What do you want to do in the future or in the near future, and start working towards that using the experience that you got from then? And oh, by the way, if you left all that behind, then you can leave all the trauma and grief behind, mourn their deaths. Don't try to you're never going to make sense of it. Why did he die? He was so highly trained, and it was a 13-year-old with a pistol that just turned a corner and shot him, and he's dead. Luck is in the world too. There's a whole lot of luck in the world too. And like you said, you're not promised tomorrow. When your contract's up on this earth, that's it. It could be in Iraq. It could be walking across the street. I could drop dead right now of something I don't even know I have. So live it. Live your best life. I think our new logo is we've been working on this. You know, live your best life. Living your best self. Your new mission is now to live your best life. You know, not to live in the past, but to prepare for the future by living in the present. And that helps me so much with trauma and grief, depression, the memories. I miss it. You know, I used to miss it. I used to be really, really angry too. I mean, I used to be a really big jerk and do a lot of bad things. And now I don't. I know what's legal, moral, and ethically right. So I no longer have to consider what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm always making sure I'm doing legal, moral, and ethical things. Man, it's easy to live that way. It's so easy. It's refreshing. And I don't have that stress or the grief of a lost friend or why, and I'll never make sense of it. And I've tried for a long time, and everyone else that listens and we're helping along the way had tried for a long time. I spoke to Vietnam vets, you know, after a speaking engagement one time. At the same time, I spoke to a veteran from the Battle of the Bulge. He's in his 90s. Wow. And he said he was crying, and I started crying with him at the table after I talked, and he said, man, I wish I would have gotten help then, but I'm going to go tomorrow. And I go, it's never too late. Same thing with the Vietnam vet guy. And I said, what I took from that is the longer you wait, the longer you live miserable until you finally go get the help. So just go get it now, man. Get that part out of the way and live the rest of your life happy versus waiting to be happy.
No, that's absolutely right. The longer you live miserable, right? So why wait? And when you talk about the guy that you met from the Battle of the Bulge, I was stationed over in Baumholder, Germany.
Oh yeah.
You know, one of our you know, officer developments was we went and toured the battlefield for the Battle of the Bulge. And I remember, you know, seeing it in the hills and the valley and, you know, the whole nine, and just like taking it all in and just remembering, you know, what it must have felt like those early mornings when they had to wake up and man the battlefield, you know, and prepare for, you know, the grotesque part of the war that, you know, that we all go through. So, I mean, for you to be able to meet someone, you know, get that, like that's an honor in itself, you know, for him here. And then to just touch his life in the sense of it's never too late to get help, no matter what the age is. I mean, that's life changing, right? Yeah. And so, you know, that's awesome. That's real awesome.
It's, you know, what do they say? Youth is wasted on the young. You know, when I was young, I saw old veterans. You could tell the jackets, always from Korea. You know, they always had something. The hat, the jacket, always from Korea or Japan or Germany or something. And I always looked at them like, those old guys, they don't know what's going on. You know, I'm the new warrior, right? I look back at some of my pictures. They look really, really old. And I'm like, wow, I'm glad that along the way I dropped the youth part fast in my life and picked up the respect part and was inquisitive of those older veterans. So I would not repeat any of their mistakes. So I see a veteran in the airport or whatever, I'll go up and thank them for their service and then try to talk to them for a little bit to gain some information from them, because they're our past from before our time. So what better way not to repeat the future than to learn what we did in the past and not keep doing that? Like, oh, I just figured something out. Oh yeah, yeah. They did that back when they built the pyramids, man. So glad you're catching up now. So study history so we know what happened before and we can do something we haven't tried. But I used to, younger people, they blow off old people because they don't know what they're doing. Our kids blow us off because we're parents. We don't know what we're doing. How many times they tell me how smart they are? I'm like, you used to drive me crazy. And I'm like, okay, you're intelligent. You're smart. You have so much experience. Go on out there and get a job.
Right, I'll do it.
Because I'm no longer taking care of you because you're smarter than me. So go get some money. And they're like, well. I'm like, yeah, be smart enough to know you don't know things. Okay. You quite possibly have not been taught everything on the planet that's happened now and in the past. So you don't know everything. Be respectful and just learn from people. Learn from them. We'd all do to learn from each other, wouldn't we? I mean, just sit down and talk instead of fight through our fears. Because we fear what we don't understand, and you don't understand it because you don't talk about it. So that's why we fight. People are like, what's going on? How are you holding up in all this? I'm like, I turn the news off, man. That's some depressing news. See, all it does is bring me down and make me angry, and I don't even know what's going on and why. Because I wasn't there and I'm not there, and I don't judge when I'm not there, right? I don't judge stories and what's going on because that's what everyone's doing, and it's making it crazy. So, live a happy life and focus on that, and it would make things a lot easier for people.
Well, tell me this: what can someone do to support a person dealing with grief or PTSD?
It's so easy. I used to try to break it down and tell people, well, here, you want to do this. I'm like, I'd never remember that. I never remember anything. So the part is just talk, communication. And I tell them, don't walk up and go, what's wrong with you? that's a bad way to start a conversation. Say, what's wrong with you or what's bothering you? Because then instantly walls are up. I just legitimately go and share a story of yourself. I share stories of how I screwed up or how I struggled and worked my way through something all the time. Not to show people that I screw up a lot, but to show people that when I do screw up, I kept going. And guess what? I got to the finish point. But it was hard all along the way. And oh, by the way, here's how I got healthier here and better here and healthier here and better here. And then people are like, yeah, I did that too. Yeah. And then they feel connected. And then they feel not alone. And then they realize, oh, this happens to everybody. We all feel this way. We all screw up. Oh, so it's normal. And then they just start sharing, and then they listen, and then they realize, wow, I'm now part of another tribe. I'm with people that think and feel the same way, so it's not abnormal. We all want to feel connected. Everybody wants to feel connected, and within less than 24 hours of being disconnected, we start craving connection. We start looking for it, and we start breaking down. We don't get it. And you can be with people, not be connected because you're not talking, right? You're there, but you're not talking. Start talking to people, and it's like society is shied away from that a lot. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to shy away from that in your families or your circle of friends. I don't ask everybody to just go out and start talking to people. I have friends that talk to homeless people under the bridge all the time. They just go out there and start talking to them. That guy used to be a lawyer, man. You don't know their story unless you talk to them. Look at that bum idiot. He deserves that shit because he should. How do you know he deserves that, right? That's an easy thing to say. Judgment. And you can't judge when you actually know the story, because you won't judge. You'll be empathetic because it'll be your story. It'll be a financial mishap or a bad life or a parent did something. Who knows unless you talk? So I tell everybody, communication, and that person will share with you what they need to share with you to feel better.
Okay. In all of this, what has been the toughest part of your journey?
Getting myself right. Getting myself to a place where I could share it without feeling inferior, without feeling like I'm going to screw it up, without, I went through phases where I'd wake up in the morning, grab my phone really quick and look at it. Did I miss any texts? Because people start reaching out. I'm not doing so good, or they're drunk and you can tell, and it's a text. So I was trying not to miss anything because I knew what I went through when I almost took my own life and how quick it was. I went from just being miserable to, that's it, I'm done, and how easy it was to stop me from doing that. And so that's when my life changed from being that warrior and that culture of who gives a shit. And I'm going to do what I want. I've got a godlike complex because I've taken lives. I'm in charge. When I enter a room, I dominate that room and I'm in charge, right? Because I have to be, or I could die. So me and all my friends would blow doors in, enter, dominate, take over. If you're not dead, it's because you didn't have a threat in your hand. Cuff, talk to you, find out what's going on, and then leave, and do that for years. Mm-hmm. You get a complex. And so it's tough, man, to self-assess and say, I'm not that guy anymore. And thank God I'm not that guy anymore. And to stop missing those happy memories, because there's a lot of bad ones, man. There's a lot of bad behavior in being a soldier, right? That's a tough way to put it. That's what the bad guys think. That's what the civilians think over there when we blow in the door and it's the wrong house. Okay, there's another insurgent. We just pissed them off. Right, okay, and then the whole country's tired of you being there. It's been 20 years. So unless you have empathy for the other side, even though they're the enemy, you got to understand them too, right? You should be studying enemy. But that means empathy. You have to understand the whole side of it, or God, you're really just kind of spinning your wheels in life. You know, if there's not purpose to everything you're doing, then you need to stop and self-assess and go, why am I doing this? Am I just doing it because I've been doing it forever? That's just the way it's been done. So self-assessment. But man, getting myself out of that gutter, forgiving myself. Almost forgot forgiving myself. I'm pretty hard. I'm like you. I'm OCD. I want to clean. I want to clean, and I want it perfectly clean because I lived that way for a long time. I've got 16-year-old stepson and a 13-year-old stepdaughter, and I went through a 21-year-old son. They'll break you. Kids will break you being clean. I can't keep up with children, so it broke me a little bit of wanting everything clean with my OCD. With my PTS, I have a perfection-driven aggression, so I'll get aggressive if it's not going perfectly right. And then I'm a teacher. So if you don't clean the dishes or the counter or the floor or whatever you ever finally do clean right, I'm going to start teaching you how to do it. And that is what kids call lectures, and they don't want lectures. So taking care of myself and realizing that I'm overbearing as a soldier. I think soldiers are taught to be overbearing. You're taught to enter, dominate, take over, do what's right and fix it and then move on. Right? You can't really do that when you're not in the top position, right? You can't raise a family that way. You can't live your life like that forever. So you have to kind of take it down, self-assess, realize what tools you need to use now, and get rid of the ones you were taught to use for war. Like hate and anger got me through a lot of war. Mm-hmm. It doesn't need to get me through the dirty dishes and the mop on the floor. I don't need to bring it to my family life anymore.
Yeah. So with all of that, right, going through the trauma, having this culture and being taught to come in and dominate a room, regardless of the situation, there's a lot of destructive behavior that's learned in all of that, right? Good and bad. And so through that process of trying to understand it, get through it, and overcome it, hurt people tend to hurt people. And
my wife's favorite saying.
So who have been some of the people you hurt the most, and how have you made amends?
My wife, man, she's been through hell. And even on our wedding night, I put her through hell. And she stuck with me. And, I wrote about it in my book. And it was, I got a lot of, wow, man, brother, you came clean. I'm like, yeah, and you can't imagine how refreshing it is, I know that other people do the same things that I do, and I want to help them. And you to get people dancing, you got to be the first on the dance floor, right? Nobody wants to be the first, right? So whenever there's a couple out there dancing, there's always a second, and then a third, and then that floor will fill up, and everybody will be dancing. So we choose to be first, and we choose to throw our dirt out there. And knowing that other people have gone through it, and it's helped. But I've hurt my son a lot simply by not being there. And then when I was there, finally, in the end, I was very aggressive. And here I am trying to make a teenager perfect, who has problems for me never being there. I was not ready. I was not ready. And so we have a relationship that's barely there. We're working on it, thank goodness, but I'm honest about it, right? I created it. It's my fault. I can be angry at him for, okay, you're an adult now, time to move on. But I probably brought a lot of hurt, by not being around. And he's made comments like, to my wife now, when he was staying here for a year, why didn't he just work at Home Depot? I just wanted him home. That's painful. That's why I try to tell people not to have regret. Know what you're going into. Know the lifestyle you're going to live. Know that if you don't keep it in check and you don't watch what you're doing, and then there's a lot you can't help anyway, your family will suffer. And so I've hurt my son a lot, and I hurt my wife a lot now as I was struggling my way out of it. But she's pretty damn tough. And it's been very therapeutic for both of us. She had a rough life growing up. She's had some life traumas happen to her. So like you said, hurt people tend to hurt people. But she also says my PTS was attracted to your PTS. So we kind of got together and we're figuring it out. And we started off rough. Now we're in our honeymoon phase. 5 years later, we're just, we're starting our honeymoon because we started off really, really bad. Really, really bad. We went through so many struggles that it can't do anything but get better from here.
Yeah. So I was going to ask this earlier, but I'll ask it now, right? Instead of saying PTSD, you say PTS. Why?
People don't like the word disorder. And since we made the word up anyway, right? The word post-traumatic stress is made up. Canada calls it occupational stress injury. We took off the D for disorder because if I say disorder, most of my friends are going to be like, F you, I don't have a disorder, bro. I'm good. I don't need help. So you just have post-trauma stress. Yeah, you do. And it manifests as perfection-driven aggression. I mean, Winnie the Pooh was written to describe PTSD to his daughter. He had fought in the war. Didn't know his daughter was scared, didn't know, and I'll screw this story up, but most of it will be true. My wife will have it. So, all the signs and symptoms of PTS are the animals, You got the rabbit, right? The rabbit, perfection-driven aggression. The rabbit's always got to be there, perfect. You got the worry one, kangaroo. You got Eeyore, the depression. You got Tigger, the manic, bouncing around everywhere, the crazy one. So he wrote that in that story. A lot of people don't know that, and you could probably Google it and it'll pop up the whole why he did it, but it manifests into all those different things. So. Yeah, I totally lost my train of thought with that one. I do that a lot too.
No. I definitely understand. No, I mean you were going down the right path of, like just one dealing with it, how like we cope, and why we're calling it PTS versus PTS.
Yeah. It was semantics. I take off the word disorder. We like to talk about it's other things, and I tell them we're not doing counseling. We're doing retraining, right? You've got muscle memory. You're aggressive so often. Your wife says something and you lash back so often that you do it without thinking. So many of my friends were asking questions like, I need help at home. I need so much help in my relationship, which is why we do families and couples. I'm the greatest soldier, but when I go home, I go, yeah, guess what? CEO of an organization, or you work in the mailroom on day one. When you go home, you're just somebody's spouse, man. They don't give a shit what you do at work. You're a general or you're a private. You go home, you're still somebody's spouse. If you don't know how to do that part of your life too, it's going to be difficult. And that's what they want help with was reconnecting. And then they start talking about, well, I act this way and act that way. And I'm like, no, I know exactly why. I know exactly why. That's what I'm doing. So I throw out my behaviors, because if I try to describe it in a term, it'll sound too medical driven or psychological driven, and guys won't like the term. So I just tell the stories of what I did. I came home, the dirty dishes were sick, and I got all stressed. I freaked out. I ruined holidays. I don't know why. And everybody started jumping out saying, I ruin all the holidays too. I'm like, all right, so you got to have self-awareness. But if they hear the word disorder, or they hear that it's a task or counseling or therapy, man, they shut down right away. So if I say, hey, we're going to do some retraining, with my friend Stacy, they get on the phone. She's so good, you won't even know it. And everybody gets off the phone. She's a unicorn. She's awesome. I'm like, yeah. Some of the biggest pipe hitters I know get off the phone, and they're different people, after 2 or 3 conversations with her, just because they're aware of why they're behaving the way they behave. So if I'd have called it a disorder in therapy, I'd have never helped them, So yeah, hey, you got PTS. It's not a disorder. It's a biological reaction in your body to an unknown chaotic event. And everyone has that biological reaction at different levels, whether it's a car wreck, the birth of a child, rape, sexual trauma, killing. It's not just veterans. The doctors who lose a patient, we all fail. And if your job is a high risk job, athletes, if you don't perform good enough, and you've all got those little kids on your heels trying to take your job from you too. So imagine the stress we all have on us that we don't even consider unless we're aware of it. So if anything, anytime I can take away the fact that you're getting therapy or you have a disorder, other than you just need retraining, you default to anger, or you default to this, let's retrain you to default to happiness and joy.
Yeah.
And it takes time, but it can be done.
Man, the way you put this just now, like, that was amazing. So a biological reaction to a chaotic event, right? In a job that has a high risk of failure.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's different for people. I mean, high risk of failure in my job might be, death. Okay. High risk failure in another job might be, somebody doesn't get their order or whatever, but still that's stress added onto you because someone's going to come down on you for that. And so that happens over and over again. Then it becomes a disorder. Like, so you say post-traumatic stress disorder, and then chronic. It's like, which is the difference? All I found the difference was time, length of time that you had it. Everybody will develop some sort of something, stress or something, and it could go away right away. It could go away the next day. Complex PTS, multiple events over time, like, 90 days at a time, doing 10 missions a night, kicking indoors over 20 years. That guy's probably crazy. He needs decommissioned into something else. So you got to retrain his thought process. He's a totally different human being now after doing that for 20 years. You got to break that cycle down. So we just tell it like it is. We don't use the big words because it scares people. They don't know what it means anyway. And I don't like to act like a doctor or a therapist. I'm just sharing my story. Wife calls us journeymen. So we're just here to help people along their journey with the stories of how we made it along ours, and we learn along the way too from others.
Right. And you're exactly right. That journeyman and sharing the story, and most of all, like, that decommission process. So back in the day when wars were fought, you traveled across seas, you marched so ever far, to the war you fought, and then you had that long travel back home to process everything that you've been through. In today's society, we could be in war tomorrow and home the next day.
18 hours.
Right. And not have that time to process what we just went through. And so, you were spot on in that sense.
We packed up to go home from Baghdad once, and another squadron was there to replace us. They had all their kit laid out. Okay, you're now ready to assume. If the mission pops for us, we go. And so now that your stuff's laid out, we pack our stuff up. Now tomorrow we go home. And then a mission popped, and it was a guy we chased for 2 months. Hey, he's in the desert at a house. It's a small compound. I was like, man, these guys aren't going to go roll out and get that dude. We've been chasing him for months, and now we're going to hand it over, and they're going to get him on their first night on here. And so I told him, I said, we're going to unpack if you guys want. They're like, yeah. So we unpacked our kit. We went and we rolled that guy up, brought him back, packed our kit back up, then left, and we're home 18 hours later after a firefight. Literally 18 hours later, I'm walking in the door from a firefight. I mean, you know, cops do it. Think of their stress. They do it all the time. They live in their combat zones. You know, you get that. Well, my story's not like yours. You were a commando, and I'm like, yeah, but I never lived your life. And oh, by the way, you cops, you live in your combat zone. You have to drive through it. You know, I don't like it when people chop themselves off the legs because they think I'm something different or better. Or no, that's not the way it is at all. But yeah, so you could immediately go from that trauma to straight home with no downtime to process it, to, you know, decommission yourself from what you just did, to think about it. And yeah, we've removed travel from you know, that they used to have back in the day before they went to war halfway around the world and they had to take a boat there or something. So
yeah. Okay, so you mentioned before that you had thought about or was close to committing suicide. What kept you going when you wanted to give up?
now my wife now, it was we were working together. I didn't really know her. She was part of a camera crew, and we were on our way back from a job, and I had two of my friends in the car and she was in the car, and we got to the parking garage of the hotel in Ohio that we were at, and getting ready to head to the bar like we did every day. My buddies jumped out, hey, we'll head down the bar. And Jen got out, and she had known me long enough to know that something was different, like I was either in a bad mood or what. And I tell you, on that drive back, the end of the day, it was hot, I was tired, and it was more of an entertainment industry kind of thing. And, you know, we're like teaching zombies how to, you know, I'll teach some civilians how to work as an element in a building and do CQB, close quarters battle. And oh, by the way, who's shooting zombies with airsoft, you know? So we're working on this. And then one day I thought, what have I done? What have I done? I'm a commando. I'm a tier 1 Delta Force operator. Well, I was a sergeant major, and now I'm out and I'm teaching people how to shoot zombies. I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm divorcing. My son doesn't know me. I live in a hotel most of the time now. I mean, I'm just drinking myself to death. It's like, you know what? My time here's done. I'm a burden. I'm in the way. And I'm going to kill myself, you know? And so when we got to the parking garage, that was a 5-minute drive. We got to the parking garage. They jump out. My buddies jump out. And Jen's like, are you okay? And I was like, I picked up my phone. I go, yeah, I got to finish. I got to make a phone call. She's like, all right, well, I'll be downstairs waiting on you. I watched her walk down the stairs, and I pulled my gun out and charged it. And I sat there and I just thought for the next 4 minutes, like, yeah, I felt sorry for the rental car people. I literally thought that because I'm a clean guy. And I was like, man, what's going to be nasty? And I thought, do I do it in the side of my head or in my mouth? Because I've seen stories about people surviving through it, you know, and I'm like, I want to do it right. And then I'm thinking, will it hurt? I didn't think of my buddies dying in war. I didn't think of my son, my ex-wife at the time. I didn't think about my next girlfriend or anything. I felt like a burden, and I was done. And what soldiers and warriors do is we either fix problems or we remove them. And I couldn't fix myself, so I was going to remove myself. And my phone started vibrating over and over and over. I was like, finally, like, Jesus. And I pick it up. It's like, what's up? Hey, we're all down here waiting on you. It was like 4 or 5 texts. And then the last one was, you're late. She knew me enough that something was wrong. She had no idea about who I really was. And that I didn't like to be late. And she knew something was up and she wanted to get my attention. So she said, you're late. And I went, oh shit. Oh shit. I cleared my gun, put it away, and ran running down there. So my life changed that day when I told her about it 2 months later, and she broke down and we started crying about it. I realized it was so easy to stop me, to break that process with a text, that I started doing research on suicide. And like people who have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, not many of them have lived. But to a person, everyone that's lived said, I immediately regretted it that minute my hand left the rail. And I thought, if you can't take it back, well, you can't regret it, So I need to show people that you'll have that regret, that you're only passing your problems along to someone you love, right? You're not fixing anything. I mean, it's good for you, but man, you really passed on a lot of trauma to other people in your life. So then I decided it was kind of a selfish act, a personal selfish act, that I wasn't thinking of anyone else, and that it was so easy. And that's when I decided to start having more empathy. I didn't decide, but I started working on having more empathy and compassion, because it was that easy to stick your hand out to help someone. And it worked. And I thought, man, I'm going to do that, So I had to fix myself first. But yeah, that was our journey. And that was how close I came. And that was how easy it was to stop me. It's spelled out more in my book, but that's the mechanics of it. I mean, the book is literally a story of a kid who grew up in the middle of nowhere, poor, nothing, that stumbled into an amazing career that many will never see and do, and travel the world, all because I didn't quit. I'm nothing special. I just didn't quit, right? And it's easy to quit, and I didn't. And I just made it my goal to, the greatest failure is a failure to try. I'm going to try things even though they're scary. I'm not going to quit when I try them. And, and that doesn't mean you don't have to prepare, right? You got to prepare for this stuff. So it was a lot of work along the way. And then there's some stories in there, there's the Black Hawk Down story told by the Delta Force guy instead of the Ranger story. Black Hawk Down is the Ranger side story with a bit of Delta in there. A little bit of more of the Delta perspective of Black Hawk Down. The capture of Saddam Hussein, I was there for that, instrumental in that. And that was my boys that rolled him up. And so that was people are like, oh, pivotal moment in your life. And I go, no, just another dude. I mean, it was really, he was not in charge anymore, really, anyway. So it was just rolling up another guy. But I mean, it's exciting to have a photo with the dude, yeah, in handcuffs. But other than that, you go and do your job the next day anyway, right? Next, it never ends. To how I almost ruined my life. I tried really, really hard to ruin my life. And then I tried to take my life. And then all the steps I did to get out of that and then onto the foundation and what we're doing with that now. You'll find that my wife's the hero of the story. It's not a book about me. Look at me. It's not a cool book about me. I've had people tell me I didn't buy the book because I thought here's another war book about another operator writing a book about himself. It's literally a book of all the shit I've done wrong. And why, if you haven't done all this stuff either, it shouldn't be so hard for you to get out of how you feel too. I've dug pretty deep down trying to ruin my life. And I just want people to be aware from the book that your life's not that bad. And if it is bad, you can change it still. Mine was pretty horrible, and I still changed it. And I'm still working on it today. People are like, are you all fixed and you're cured? And yeah, I'm no longer contagious for PTSD. However, I will work on it my whole life because those memories don't go away. That you did those things, but they subside and you can function and live happily versus living miserable and drinking yourself to death and arguing with people and fighting and being angry. I just every night I just stop and go, why am I so angry? Yeah. Why do I take shit out on other people? If I'm angry, it's because I let myself be angry, right? I let myself be angry.
Mm-hmm. So what caused you to correct the destructive behavior?
Again, my wife.
Your wife, so
someone that was so caring and loving. And I finally noticed that I decided, I think she turned my head enough to make me realize that I need to fix myself. And once I start fixing myself, I don't live that life of destructive behavior anymore. And then my relationship is therefore better, and then my life's better, and everything's happy. And my cycle is now not a shame cycle. It's kind of a happy cycle. Every now and then with some shameful acts versus a shame cycle with some happy acts sprinkled in, right? So that's the change of the muscle memory and the way I behave, because we all act out with what we're used to.
Yeah.
You know, somebody yells something at you, a cuss word or something. I used to turn and be like, really? And I'll head straight for him. Oh yeah? Let me show you something. Yeah, let me teach you something. I want to teach you respect, right? Yeah, I get it. I was younger. I was trained. Now somebody calls me a name or something, like, oh, hey, thanks, that's a new one, or whatever. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Care. Why? Why do I let them and a name bother me? You know, I know who I am.
Yeah.
So I think self-awareness is what stopped me from all those acts, and deciding to live legally, morally, and ethically right.
Okay, so wife and self-awareness, right? Do you see your growth?
Yeah, I'm a tough one to admit when I'm doing well at things. I've always focused on what's wrong so I can fix it. And if it's going right, it's supposed to be that way. So I don't need a pat on the back. I don't need anybody telling me, hey, good job. I get mad, really, when my wife's like, yeah, I appreciate you building the deck and it's so hot out there. And I'm like, listen, it's just a deck, man. Throw some wood together. It's hot. Finally off my butt and I'm doing something, you know. So I just don't take compliments well, but I've seen my growth. I've used it on my wife in arguments, right? So, you know, the funny things you learn along the way, and it's like, I'll call her out on it, which, you know, now we have a plan when we argue how to argue, so we don't use things against each other. That's another step, is to have a plan for everything, to include arguing. That's a good one for people with PTS or stress or any relationship.
Yeah, have a plan.
Sit down when you're in a good mood. Talk about when we argue and fight, because you will. You will. And when we really get nasty and argue and fight, because you will. Safe word, Rumpelstiltskin, whatever it is, something that you both know that it's time to break apart, right? And once you do it over and over and over again, you keep doing it, you'll fail along the way. Man, you'll change your whole relationship. You will change your whole relationship on how you argue. If you argue with rules, right? You don't throw out that, oh yeah, well, you look like your mom or something, then you're done. Because we all have those nuclear buttons we can push that sets the other person off, but when you're trying to be right, the relationship loses. So yeah, all that nasty behavior, man, when you're aware of it, it just changes your life to, God, I don't even know how to describe it to some people, how it's so much better and how easy it is to just make that choice. Yeah. But I understand it's hard to start because it's a habit. And that's why we're here, to help people start.
Yeah. So your wife and self-awareness help you to correct your destructive behavior. And you saw your growth, but you didn't want to admit it, but you know it's there. And I like this last part of have a plan to argue and argue with rules, right? So with all of this that you've been through, coming to where you at, I know you started to mention that you had a therapist. So, the question, did you seek professional help? Yes, of course you did. But was there anything special about your counselor, from a cultural sensitive standpoint, what they look like and what they experienced that helped you to connect and get treatment, or did you just need help?
I needed a lot of help. And when I started out, the first therapist I saw was actually Eric Clapton's therapist back then. Some crazy rocker back in the day. And he told me, I was like, whoa. But that was anger therapy. That was anger management, 2 weeks. And I'll tell you what, it was life-changing to tackle one thing. And that was just anger management. I was, that's a symptom of PTS. So I tackled anger management. And I would have never seen a therapist before that. I know what's wrong with me. I just choose not to fix it, and I'll fix it if I wanted to, or, so one of those things. So when I did that, and I learned so much from this person, that we started to go see different therapists. And I decided to just try anything, because some of my seriously poor behavior had finally come to a point with my wife, like, okay, something's got to give. And so once, I had consequences slapped in my face, like, okay, no kidding. I finally decided and started that therapy and professional treatment. But I've gone through 4 or 5 different therapists along the way, because people are like, I went to a therapist, I didn't like it. I go, okay, go to another one, because they're people too. And you have to have that connection. You have to find the one that's right for you. And when I found ours, and we hired her for our foundation now, but when I found her, it was like the end of a line of therapists. Like, all right, let's try one more. A friend of ours says they're great. And she is great. She just literally had me address, it's called emotionally focused therapy, EFT. And it's addressing your emotions as if it's another entity, you know? And I'm like, okay, I'll try this, you know? When somebody says, take hate and anger and violence and put it in that chair across the room, what would you tell it? That's all she said to me. I mean, we had some therapy before this, and that's all she said to me. And my wife's in the room, you know, and we're doing this together. And I remember looking at it, and all my head started flashing through was all the hateful and angry things I had done and the violence I'd done. And I thought, why? And so I said, you know, thank you. I said, I want to thank you for keeping me alive, right? For all you've done to keep me alive through all the shit I've been through. But I'm going to tell you, I don't need you anymore. I'm going to call on you now. You know, you are now a possibility versus a probability. You know, I used to live in a world where bad things were probably going to happen to me. So I was ready for them. Now I live in a world where bad things possibly could happen to me. Maybe. So I can put it all away. And when I did that, I broke down, started bawling, and I embarrassed my wife, blah, 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 and all that we go through when men cry. And she goes, no. And then she's like, so how do you feel about that? I'm like, wow, now you're asking me questions about. And I just started telling her, you know what? I realize it'll still be there, but it's not my go-to, you know? So I was treating it as a human being. I was treating it as a different entity, talking to it versus just letting it be in me. And it was as weird as it seems, and my entire life I'd have said, I don't fall for that crap. It worked. It continues to work. It works on our friends. And then all the steps that we use and that she taught us are so simple that it was she wasn't trying to press us how smart she was. She broke it all down so we understood it, and she does it individually with every person on the phone. And then they get off there and they call me, oh my God, she's amazing. She's amazing. I go, I know, right? It's so easy when you just consider what you're doing and consider why you're doing it, the why that you do anything. And if it doesn't make sense, to change it, to do what you really want to do. People don't live what they speak. Mm-hmm. I love my family more than anything. And then they go to work 20 hours a day and never come home. Well, are you showing your family that you love them? You know, I mean, that's an extreme case, but I try to live by what I say now. I try to do, although not always what we you know, preach and teach. But I'm constantly always trying to do the right thing, and I'm always checking on myself versus I just used to live oblivious. I just, you know, I don't even think I was around when I was acting out and doing stuff. I just didn't pay attention. I just did stuff.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you sharing all of that. The emotional therapy, the connecting with your anger, your frustrations, all the things that we go through that keep us alive, you know, on the battlefield, and just being able to sit them in a chair and have, you know, personify them and speak to them, and just to say, okay, I don't need you anymore, right? I appreciate what you've done for me, right?
Yeah.
I like this point, this journey, you're an option. You're not the necessity. And so, I mean, that in itself is just powerful from an emotional standpoint. And I mean, like, that's awesome. So my last question, we're getting ready to wrap it up. What advice would you give your younger self?
Yeah. Okay, my younger self. So I'm trying to think of some message to give people out there. But you know what? My younger self, to be in honesty, to live in love and not fear, right? I lived in a lot of fear growing up. I never had confidence in myself. I was never good enough. People were judging me. Nobody liked me. True or not, I don't know, but I always felt that way. And so I started to lead with love and not fear, because when I led with fear and you're screaming and, you know, get it done, do this, do that, you know, to a group of guys who know what they're doing already anyway, right? They're professionals too. Sure, they'll do it for you when you're there, right? When you're gone, you're not screaming at them anymore. Then they're just they don't like you, and they don't think you like them. But when you lead with fear, you're down there with them. You find out who they are. You get to know your people, not just them, but their families and what changes their days, right? What mood do they show up in work? And do you know Linda at home or Julie? Do you know their kids? And big organization, you can't. But if you lead with love, they'll not only work with you when you're there, but when you're not there, they'll do the work you need done. They'll make you look good. They'll want to make you look good because they feel like you care about them. So, and that was the thing I would never say as a younger person was love and fear. What fear? Yeah, I got that. Fear and violence. Let's do this. And everybody loves me. It's confidence, cockiness. But man, it's when you do the right thing and you truly care about other people, they know it. They can see it, and they'll do anything for you. They'll do anything for you, and they'll do their best always. And so, all that took was me to get to know people. Talking and actually caring about who they are, and getting to know them, and then I could better help them.
I got you. Okay. No, that's good. So lead with love and getting to know your fellow man and fellow soldier.
Yeah.
And they will do the right thing when you're not looking. Right. No, man, this has been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
You have given me some really eye-opening things that even I need to look at myself, and I appreciate that. Please shout out any resources that you want to share, any efforts that you got going on, like how can people reach you? How can we find your book?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything could be done at allsecurefoundation.org. You can buy the book there. You can buy an autographed copy of the book there. And by the way, you can get shirts, swag hats, whatever. But everything on that site that we sell, all that money proceeds go to help veterans and their families. It's not like we're making money off the book. Everything's going to help veterans. So if you want to donate, you can donate on the site. If you want to get help, you can get help on the site. If we're on social media. We're on Facebook. It's Tom Satterly or All Secure Foundation or Jen Satterly. We have Virago, which is also on the All Secure Foundation site, but it's also social media, which is my wife's writing a book right now that's it was supposed to be out in November. It'll be out in February now due to COVID, but it's about the spouse's side of it, right? How can a spouse, what's her story and how does she get through all this? Because that's your battle buddy at home. That's the one that's nothing fails. If you got two people working at it at home, man, that's going to be a lot higher percentage of success than just, helping the veteran alone. And so she's writing that book, Heart of a Warrior is the working title. But it talks about how the spouses are warriors. I mean, they got to run the rest of your life, pay the bills, take care of the kids, keep the house going. Then we all come home and try to fix it and change it, right? That works out well. But we're on Instagram at All Secure. We're on Twitter at All Secure Vets. But yeah, if you want to help, there's email on the allsecurefoundation.org website. If you want to donate, it's on there. If you want the book or hats or anything, but all that helps us. I think we're at 86% of our money goes all direct back to projects, programs, and veterans that helps veterans. So yeah, we love to help people, and please reach out. And check on your friends, right? Check on the strong ones. The ones you think don't need help are the ones that are just being a little bit hard-headed. So, get to know. You don't have to call and say, hey, I know you need help, so call Tom. But it's like, hey, how's it going, man? I just want to check on you. So I tell everybody, check on your friends too. I call or text at least 5 people a day in my phone. Different people I haven't talked to in a long time to see how they're doing. And I get a lot of, oh, you're doing that nonprofit thing. I'm fine. I'm like, no, I'm just calling to check on you. Because I really do. I used to avoid, I'm on the phone all the time now, but I used to avoid it. I didn't want to talk to anybody. That was my isolation. That was me. The phone would ring. I'm like, I'm not answering it. And now I call people and bother them because I want to find out how they're doing. Right. I have too many friends that killed themselves that I thought were good. So.
Okay. Well, that's how we reach you. Any last words of wisdom or words of encouragement that you want to share?
Yeah, everything's temporary, man. Everything's temporary. I would recommend people limit the amount of news they're watching right now, right? Limit the amount of news because that's all designed to get you going, get you crazy, man. So, they want to sell stuff. So they want those ads on the news. So they're going to put out those stories to get people crazy. Do what's right. Do what's legally, morally, and ethically right, right? And get to know each other. And I think this would solve a lot of problems throughout the world. I mean, we fight people around the world because we don't know who they are and they want different things and it's scary. So the more we get to know people, I mean, the more we understand people and then the more friends we have. So yeah, lighten up. Everybody needs to lighten up and respect each other. That's what I'd say.
Indeed. I appreciate that, man. Well, look, everyone, this is Tom and Greg Washington with Guards Down, telling all y'all to stay safe out there. And most importantly, stay focused and stay engaged. We're out.